another UK cryptids documentary, this time focusing on wolf-like Dogman encounters. But unlike other cryptid reports that have been covered in the past, some of these creatures don't stay in the woods. Sometimes they follow people home. First, we have experiencer and researcher Ian Michael Woods.
My name's Ian Michael Wood. I've been researching, whether you call them werewolf, dogmen, for about 10 years. I think dogman is the American name for them, but I prefer the old European werewolf, which means man-wolf, because obviously they walk around on two legs sometimes, like a man. The earliest, certainly in England, the earliest name I could find for them was Blieka Skuka, which roughly translates as Great Terror. And probably from Skuka we got the word shuk or shuka, which is predominantly used in the eastern part of this country. But as to myself, how I came about start researching them was that I work in an office complex, and back in 2015 I used to listen to a program called Dogman Encounters on my rounds at night. And you would listen to various people that had experiences with these creatures, and obviously especially hunters out in the woodland, and they would describe certain types of trees being mismanaged or rearranged, or what I simply call tree sign. Now, I used to drive from Reading to Whitney on the A4074 that cuts through a lot of woodland. And obviously, after nearly a year of listening to these programs, obviously you begin to recognize certain signs or tree sign. And obviously, especially up north of Reading, Canaan, going towards the hamlet of Newley Green and Escalade, there was an awful lot of this tree sign. So Christmas Day, which was a Sunday, 2016, I decided to take a drive up towards Canaan, park in a car park, walk across the road where there was extensive tree sign. And it was quite foggy. I walked into the tree line, and over to my left there was a country lane that led up to a farm, and to the left of that was an open field, which is normally used for grazing of horses. So as I walk into the tree line, I notice movement out of the corner of my left eye, and I turn around and I catch something that was about 2 foot bigger than me. I'm 6'3", so this thing's got to be about 8 foot plus. I catch the right shoulder and the right side of the face, and it turns back into the fog. And I recognised what the head shape was, and I decided to obviously get back in the car and go home. I then waited for the first weekend of 2017. This time I went further, parked up, and went down to the footpath, and walking down the footpath maybe about 200 metres from the main road, and I come across an ivy den, and sat in there about 4 foot, sat on its haunches, with its back to me, was one of these creatures, and I was just naturally attracted to the coat. This immaculate black hair fur coat with a almost perfect centre line down the middle, but there was no shine on the coat. There was no light reflecting. So again, I decided to turn around and head back home, because obviously these things are an unknown quantity. Well, back then they were to me, and not knowing who or what they were totally, or I don't know. I didn't have the knowledge back then that I do today. So that was a Saturday. The Sunday, I went round the back of this one particular wood where there's an old post office. It's now a country home. And at the back, as you walk into the tree line just to the right, there's a birthing den. And I took some pictures, and obviously later on I'm looking at them. That's when I realised I've actually caught the muzzle and the nose of one of these things in the canopy of the tree looking down at me. And from there, I just started every weekend going up to Nooney Woods. Well, actually, Nooney Woods is about 6 or 7 woods, all sort of merged together, that some locals collectively call Nooney Woods. And there's a small hamlet called Nooney Green. That is one road in, one road out, maybe about a dozen houses, all surrounded by woodland. I'm pretty sure some of the locals there can say a lot. There is a preparatory school nearby, and I've been basically walking through these woods for nearly a decade now. I have been to other locations in Wales where I've had encounters, Yorkshire, certainly around the Three Counties area, Gloucestershire and Worcestershire, a place called Glass House, been down to woodlands in the southeast, also East Anglia, Thetford Forest, which still gives me the creeps, because if you are more tuned in with your surroundings than some other people, you are constantly on your toes walking. I mean, one of the last, there were 4 locations that I wanted to visit, and obviously living in Reading at the time, it's a 4-hour drive there. So I left pretty early, got there early, and I made all 4 locations. But the last one, I came across a den, and there was something black sat inside it. And I'm really trying to look at this thing. And then I noticed 2 golden eyes were looking right back at me. So I took some pictures, and obviously I promptly left because I suddenly realised what was looking back at me. Another location, actually not far from here, is a place called Bay Lane, Fordswell. Again, another small rural village, but a lot of woodland that turned out to be private, because I've been going in there for about 3 years, only to be caught one day by one of the woodland workers, rangers, whatever you call them, and he had a 7.62 bolt action rifle, which they apparently might be used for deer killing. So obviously I can't go back in there, but the good thing is they'll actually come up to the brick wall of the main road sometimes, and just a flash, because they move exceedingly fast. I mean, from a standing position, for them running off full speed, it's like the blink of an eye. They have, just because they may be about 500 pound plus in weight, does not mean that they run like a 500 pound animal, where they're just simply like plodding along like a hippo. They can move extremely fast, they can jump extremely high, they can leap extremely high. One experience, I think it was 2018, November 2018, it was raining, and I was walking around a particular tree thinking there was one here definitely. So I pull back about 20 meters, get my flask of coffee out. As I'm pouring, one jumps out at the top of the tree. It's got a white stripe down the middle of its back, hit the ground, went off to the right, because there was 3 deer moving from left to right along the footpath. And I think from the moment it jumped out at the top of the tree, because at that point it would have been directly above me, but I walked off, started getting my coffee out, hit the ground, went off to the right, and I would say about a blink of an eye. 2 deer ran back, so obviously I went to see if there was any carnage on the footpath, and I couldn't find anything. But this thing had obviously picked up, swooped a deer. Another time I was in Nooney Woods. There's an open circular area which has a certain particular fondness for them. again, there was 2 deer grazing off to the left, and a juvenile came out of the tree line, maybe about 300 meters to my right. And what struck me, it was low to the ground, and it kind of hesitated for a split second, deciding whether it should go or stay. Because obviously I'm looking right, then I'm looking left. And one of the deer actually pricked up its ears and looked. And that's when this thing bolted. And I didn't even see it cover the ground. I saw it on all fours, low down, springing, and it was just gone. And the 2 deer ran off. I've only ever seen this twice, but they have the ability to merge with their surroundings. And when I mean merge, I don't mean cloak. I mean literally, if there's green foliage, they will turn green to the colour. And I believe there's a couple of examples of that from Australia. Cloaking, yes, definitely. Same as any other cryptid creature, whether it be a rake or a sabe or a Bigfoot, whatever you want to call them, wild man, green man, Villavosa. Well, they certainly have the ability to cloak. Now, whether that's because they have hollow fur, they can absorb light, refract light, bend light. But it's certainly a technique that's taught, because I've actually had one instance, actually beautiful Saturday afternoon in 2018. I'm walking through a certain section of the wood, and the sun is off to my left, so this direct sunlight's coming right through the trees, and I see like this thing sticking out the base of the tree, and it goes back in. I'm thinking, what the hell's that? So it sticks its leg out, and I realise there was 2 of them. They were about 4 foot tall. They were juveniles, but basically they will use the shade of a tree to back up, like almost hide. And there was one backed up to a tree, and there was another one maybe about 50 meters from me that was just looking at me. There was an adult, probably about 12 foot tall, that was just like literally feet away from me. There was eyeballing it, it was cloaked, and it was only because of the sunlight coming through the sea that you could actually make the outline of this thing. The head and shoulders, and part of the right arm, which is sort of out like that. So that was one of my first sort of learning curves, that obviously it's a technique that's taught. Now, to some other creatures, it may come naturally, obviously. You know, when a great white is born, they think these things can instinctively hunt or have to be standalone. So that they have quite a varied diet, because I mean, obviously there is a question: can such a large animal live off the land, especially in a country this size? I often think that there is a correlation between the expansion of deer herds, especially in the last 30, 40 years, in terms of conservation, because deer populations were getting low, and they basically decided that they would implement certain policies that would allow the deer population to expand. And obviously, as the deer population has expanded over the years, sightings of these creatures have become more and more common to a certain extent. So how people are treated when they report these things, from my own experiences, I'd only just say, do you want to come with me to the woods? And that's enough for anyone to stop. I mean, obviously some people do face ridicule, and obviously the way that you brought up, you know, like picturing the wolf, or about werewolves, and they're supposed to be in a film and they're only a myth and legend, but like with everything else, there's always a kernel of truth, whether from creation or in a film. But having seen one physically, it just kind of really shakes everything you're led to believe or see. Seeing one the first time, that was enough for me. I saw what I saw. I knew what it was. It was definitely not a Hollywood type shifter type creature. It was solid. They do leave big piles of poo in the woodland. They do chip away at the bark to sharpen their claws or nails, which can average between 3 and 6 inches. Their mouth, they're just full of teeth. There's no ifs or buts or gaps. They're just teeth, and they always appear to be shiny white. I know normally a lot of hunting animals over age, they get chipped or browned or discoloured with age, but I've never seen one that has or has lost a tooth. They smile. They can present a certain fear in people. They can project fear. They can read. 3 times I've been rooted to spot absolutely poo in my pants, and the only time I felt I ever came close to being killed, I was following some tracks, and I suddenly had this huge, overwhelming sense of fear, and this thing was still telling me to go, because if it saw me, I was lunch. The first 6 months when I really got into this, 2017, I was given the runaround. They would snort in my ear, growl, throw things. And once they figured that I wasn't going to go away, they became a bit more comfortable. I mean, there is a sense of like you are absolute filth on their shoe. There's some. They do sort of project a feeling of disgust, of you're not worthy of the name, and but once they realise that you're okay, they just leave you alone. They do come to your home. I go to their home, so I invite them. I've had them in the house here. Well, basically, the first time when I was living in Reading, they were at night. They would sit in the back garden. At night time, you just see a pair of red eyes. And then, obviously, I had one time when I was sleeping in bed. I was turned on my right, and this sharp claw was doing that. And then I had it walk down to the end of the bed, and I thought, right, I'm going to count to 10, wake up, and then start screaming like a big girl's blouse. When I opened my eyes, there was nothing there. I've even had one where it grabbed my ankle, and it was rocking me like that. I told it to F off because I was trying to sleep. I've had one, again, it was on my lap, but it was drooling saliva. It was getting in the crook of my arm. I was like, please leave me alone. I think I used to think this whole portal thing in the first years. I know there were a group of researchers that were firmly convinced that they could do portals. I know Salve people can do the whole portal thing. And then a fellow researcher, Nadine Hordle, who's more finely tuned than me, she actually got one of a female coming through a portal out in Nooney Woods, right? So obviously that I was a bit more like, okay, they can do stuff. I mean, they're a flesh and blood creature. They breed, they eat, but they come with a whole box of tricks, which even I probably only know that much. I don't pretend to claim everything or know anything. We actually have, we can actually experience these things. They're physically real. First time we went up to Glass House, took her up there. Glass House is beautiful. It's eerily quiet, right? Even the squirrels tiptoe. So there's a ashram up there for Krishnas, and they got this huge generator thing belting away. So we're walking up this side road, and I look over to my left, and there's this thing. It's about 6 foot, between 5 and 6 foot, and he's sat on his haunches like that. and I saw it go from left to right, round the front of us, like a blur. But I saw it sat there. It was black, and it suddenly stuck his head near a fence, a wooden fence. So it's still in cover, but the head is like that. And I thought, if my missus sees this, she's going to freak out. So I said, babe, picture, turn towards me. And she turns and smiled, and I took the picture, and then that's when the thing just pulled back, and she carried on walking. I thought, oh my God. Because I had one. When we used to drive back from my nan's, I would always stop at the gate. This is the place where we're going to meet up or whatever. And there was one. She used to, like, on a phone like that, because sometimes they would come right up to the window and look at her. You know.
Do you think they've given you the sight?
I think people that have experienced personal trauma or are gifted have the ability to see or experience, whether you call it supernatural or above natural phenomena. I think we're all, I don't know, maybe eons ago, we all had the ability to tune in, you know, like tune a radio or a TV. I think we all had the ability. Obviously, over the years, these gifts have been taken away or sort of suppressed. But I still think people, either through physical trauma or psychological trauma, they have a second sight or a part of their conscious or subconscious, whatever you want to call it, that is opened up to new realities, definitely. And then I think there are people who are just everyday Joe blogs do encounter something. I've seen two at Nooney, one at May Lane that was actually walking across a field when I saw it. And all I had in my mind was like, that's got to be about the size of a cow. And he was walking across an open field on all fours. And he started going into a hedge. And I'm trying to get up there as quick as I can and close as I can to get pictures. And I never saw it come up through the other side. They do have a kind of sense of humor. I mean, a couple of times I've had one that come up to me and they blow cold air. You know, they're invisible when they do that. And the first time, you know, you just like literally what you think, I hope I just don't follow through, because, you know, you hear about people actually urination or defecating themselves. That's never happened to me, thank God. Wouldn't surprise me if it had actually happened. But there is thumping the ground, the throat rattle. Now, the throat rattle is, I think there's a wild camper who does online, has his own YouTube channel, and he's actually caught this. And you can see him, and he's absolutely bricking it. That happened to me along with Nadine Wardell when we were up in Nooney Woods, and that's basically, you stay put, I'm going to be on my way, do not follow. Right? Thumping the ground, and believe you me, you know that thumping the ground because it's loud. That is turn away, go away. A growl could be from anything from, you're annoying me, I'm not happy, oh, it's you again. There's those different types of growls.
Next, we have Steve Hevican, whose experiences didn't end with the encounter itself. Like Ian Michael Wood's, strange experiences happened long after the sighting itself and also followed him home.
Right, so my name is Steve Hevican. August 29th, 2022. I was going to the my mum's graveside. We'd been there. We were coming back along this road into the traffic, and I was a passenger in the car. My son-in-law, he was driving. My daughter Summer was in the back, and my granddaughter Angel was in the back, and my younger granddaughter Daisy, she was in a child seat. And we were tootling along this road, coming back heading towards Easthays. And then, to my shock, I looked across to the right in front, diagonal, in that direction over there. And about a third of the way into the field, I was astonished to see what looked to me like two big giant wolves. And I just couldn't believe it. I was so shocked. And they were walking nonchalantly, as though they hadn't got a care in the world, nice and relaxed. And they were just probably a third of the way into the field, and probably about 2/3 of the way across. And they looked as though they were heading towards the woods. And in the field, there was the round bales of hay that the farmers had obviously put there, harvesting the hay and stuff. But these animals, they were walking along as casual as though they wasn't concerned. And I felt they were heading towards the trees. But I was so shocked. I was just speechless, which is unusual for me because I talk a lot. So I was so shocked to see these two wolf-like creatures. And the size of them, it was incredible. And I've seen dogs like Great Danes and Newfoundlands, all that kind of thing, Afghan hounds. But these things dwarfed those kind of animals. They were really big, you know. And anyway, as we went along in the car, Dan was driving, my son-in-law, driving pretty quick along there. But I must have watched them for a good 8 to 10 seconds. And they were not horses, they were not carers, they were not deer. I turned to my son-in-law and I said, "Did anybody else see what I've just seen in the field?" But nobody had seen, you know. His Dan was driving, concentrating on his driving. Part of me wanted to go around the A5 island, by the turf and come back. But another part of me was like, that was too, whatever that was too scary, you know. And, but yeah, they were an incredible size. And I'd heard about people seeing things like this. And, you know, you don't know what to believe. But I'm telling the truth, you know, what I saw. And I can only say what I saw. As to what they are, I don't know. Are they something that can come into this dimension from another dimension? Are such creatures existing, hiding away? Although these two didn't look as though they were hiding away, they were just really casual and sort of happy to be there by the looks of this. Now, if people say, "Oh, maybe you mistook some horses," I must add that I used to work on a farm from when I was 14 during the school holidays, and actually the farm is just over to the left there, and I'm familiar with animals, so whatever they were, I'm just telling you what I saw, and that's all I can say. That's for anybody working out to their own thinking. They were like a darkish, greyish colour, and they had like the wolf-like tail, which is different to a horse. And as they were moving, as I said to a lady who I know, Deborah Hatswell, I was trying to describe the movement, and I said, "Dad, this sort of," and then she says, "Slinky." I said, "Yeah, that's the exact word. This was like slinky movement." And she said that she'd heard that before. With the sense of power of these creatures, and I used to go to the woods further that way a few miles that way. But it put me off going into the woods because I thought, I don't want to encounter one of these things, close up. And anyway, for a long time I didn't go into the woods. I've started to pluck up the courage now to do it. But I don't know if those creatures, whatever they are, if they were, ferocious enough to turn against the people, you'd have no chance because of the power and the strength. No one else in the car has seen them, and now I have had a lot of what people would call paranormal experiences anyway since I was a little kid. Paranormal, psychic things, and I do have certain abilities, let's say. I know a lot of people, try and debunk and discredit things like that. Run out for a fact, but experiences I've had and abilities that I've got. But yeah, so whether it's just me because of whatever happens with my consciousness, I don't mean having an hallucination or being delusional, but I think that maybe because of my paranormal, psychic type things, I might have somehow tuned it so that only I might have seen them, even if my son-in-law and my daughter and two granddaughters didn't see anything. But I don't know. I'm just putting this out there on record because I know a lot of other people out there have seen things, experienced things, and because of that, I'm going on record. I mean, it's just one of the phenomena that I've experienced, but maybe me and the lady with me, she will interview me about other stuff. But I like to tell the truth, I won't make anything up, I won't lie. So, anyway, make of it what you will. I don't know what day it was, somewhere February 2018. Some snow had come down, probably an inch or two. Freezing cold. He said on my phone, weather app, wind chill factor, the real feel, -20. And because I'd seen a lady called Deborah Hatswell talking about going to your local woods or look around, see what you see or experience. And I came down on that day, and there's nobody about. I came down to go through the bushes and trees, so I'm going to go through in a minute. And as I walked through, I all of a sudden, it was like I heard an almighty thud, as though someone about 50 stone had jumped out of a tree, and I sort of banged on the floor. And I stopped and I wondered what it was. There's no one about. There's a road nearby, but it has nothing to do with the noises on the road. There was very little traffic, if any at all. But anyway, so I made my way through the bushes. I heard this thud, and I stopped and wondered what it was. So I took another step. Then I had two thuds, and I was like, wow, what is that, So I took another couple of steps, and there was like three thuds, as though it was something or someone was trying to let me know I felt. It didn't want me in the area. He wanted me to not be there for some reason. And I was wondering what to do. I was alarmed because how close the thuds sounded. I should have seen whatever was making the thuds, but I couldn't see anything, And I thought, is it something that's invisible, you know? Sounds crazy, but anyway, so that was that, and I was wondering what to do. Went to take another couple of steps, and again, this insistent thudding as I responded to me walking. It wasn't my own footfall that was echoing for anything. I ruled that out. It wasn't that. But sometimes when I took a step, there'd be like 2 steps, you know, not 2 bunts or 3. So I was quite baffled. Anyway, I had this feeling that whatever was making these thuds didn't want me there. And so I decided I was going to leave, retrace my steps and come back out. And anyway, but as I was walking out, before I did that, I sort of said, oh, okay, I was just curious about the area, you know, and what's about. And I was just passing through to have a look. Also, I didn't mean any harm. Sorry if I'm intruding on your space. And I said things like this, and then, but then it might sound silly, but in my mind, just in case whatever was making the thudding noises, I tried to send a visual from my mind of me turning around and walking away, so that whatever was making these thuds would know that's what I was going to do, in case he responded to visual. Anyway, I turned around and I was walking away steadily. I didn't want to panic and run, but I didn't feel at ease being there. And I was really glad when I got out of the woods on the trees and the shrubs, and I got out onto the park, the open park ground where the kiddies play area. But yeah, it was such an odd, weird experience. But it made me baffled that I could not see what it was causing the thuds. And I'll come to call the whatever it was the thudder, you know, because of the thuddy. So I left the area and I went off the park, up the road to my daughter's house. She's named Summer. And I was chatting with her and I told her of my encounter. Anyway, as time rolled on, a few months after that, I was at my daughter's Summer's again. And on this occasion, we were chatting, and she's got a flat roof. And as it turned out, I think we might be chatting about the same subject and different things, paranormal, psychic, whatever. Because as I said, I've had a lot of these things since I was a kid. Anyway, as we were chatting away, suddenly the same kind of thud came on the flat roof above us. And we both startled and shocked, you know, what was that? And I raced outside to have a look. There's no one in the garden. My son-in-law had got a ladder leaning up beside the fence. I climbed up there and looked on the flat roof, went onto the flat roof, no one about. There's no one in the car park, there's no one in the alleyway at the side of the church, Bourne Methodist Church. There's no one about, and I stood there for quite a while looking, and in case anybody was hiding, you know, to try and find who we you know, in case somebody was playing a prank. So anyway, because of my previous encounter in the February down here with the thudder, I was feeling that it might have followed me somehow without being seen, whatever it is. And because I went to my daughter Summer's first, it might have thought that's where I reside, you know. But anyway, because it's probably in the summer months, I was over at my daughter's. I remember it being sunny, so it's probably around about June, August, something like that. June, July, August. And as we was chatting away, that thud on the roof, we both wondered what it was. And there was nothing that could explain it. There was nothing on the roof. There was nothing that could have fallen on the roof to make the noise. There was no one around, and it was just inexplicable, you know. And I felt that it was connected with this encounter, with the thudder. And I've heard other people say when they've had strange encounters out somewhere, it's like as though it's followed them back home, whatever it is. So whatever the phenomena is, I can only report what I experience, and what I experience, I'll be truthful and honest and tell you like it is. I won't add anything, I won't take anything away, and but yeah, it's just a mystery, isn't it? These strange things. So I'll try and put things out on record, because if we all do, we might all have a piece of the puzzle, to add to the jigsaw to solve it. I would just say I would encourage anyone who has had any unusual experience to come forward and contact people to get it on record, so that it was out there. So yeah, if you're going to get your experience out there, whatever it is you've experienced, people like Liz Coleman, or who's a lady holding the camera now, filming this, and there's Deborah Hatswell. She has done a lot of research to do with like the British wild man and stuff like that. And Deborah Hatswell herself had an encounter when she was 15 with her school friend when they saw a wild man. If you look that up, and as I say, Liz Coleman, she will be happy to hear your report. I won't say stories, because stories is like something that sounds made up, so I always say your report or your experience. But yeah, if enough of us come forward, I've had experiences across the board, everything from the UFO type things to it's too much to mention now, but yeah, I'm sure Liz will do some more reports for the future. So, but yeah, if anybody wanted to get in touch with me, get in touch with Liz Coleman, Deborah Hatswell, they will put her in touch with me. Hook up with me on Facebook. And yeah, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Fascinating, trying to work out what's going on.
The werewolf sightings have become more common in Britain, and the interesting thing about them is that they generally describe a creature standing on its hind legs with a man-like hair covered body and a wolf-like head. But if you look at the werewolves of medieval legend in Europe, they're nothing like that at all. They are people who have been either cursed or given a wolfskin belt or a wolfskin coat or magic ointment that turns them completely into a wolf, that doesn't look distinct from any other wolf except perhaps by bizarre behaviour. For example, there's the case of Peter Stubb in 1589 from Bedburg in Germany, who was accused of being a werewolf, and he said he met the devil in the form of a dark rider on a dark horse in a cloak in the forest. And he gave him a wolfskin belt, if my memory serves correctly. And he said this transformed him into a greedy and a devouring wolf, and he thought to have killed 14 children, including his own son, who he said he took his son into the forest, transformed him into a wolf, and then ate his brains. And when he confessed to this, they strapped him to a wheel, broke his arms and legs, tore flesh off him with red-hot pincers, beheaded him just to make sure, and then his mistress and his daughter were skinned alive and hung. Another case, Jean Grenier from France, 1603. He was a 14-year-old boy who said he had met a sorcerer in the forest that gave him some ointment and a wolf's skin he could put on that transformed him into a wolf, and he confessed to killing 8 children and attacking other people as well. He ended up being sent to a monastery because they thought he was insane, and he died in his early 20s. But they always transform fully into a wolf, not into this wolf-man hybrid. The year of 1936, Hollywood released the film The Werewolf of London, which was the first modern werewolf film that shows a werewolf as a hairy man-like creature running around on 2 legs. And bizarrely, the same year at St. Coletta School for Exceptional Children, which is in Wisconsin, in USA, there was the first sighting of one of these cut-bite Dogman type werewolves. And it was by a night watchman called Mark Stuckman. And he said 2 nights on the running, he saw near an ancient Native American burial mound this creature about 7 feet tall, covered in hair, with a dog-like muzzle, elongate claws. And on the first night he saw it, it just looked at him and loped away. On the second night he got it in torchlight, and it made this noise. He said it was 3 syllables that sounded something like "garada," as if it was almost trying to talk to him. When it loped away again, he never saw it again. But that was as far as I know, the first sighting of an upright walking wolfman, if you like. Because before that, werewolf had always been these quadrupedal creatures. Steve's sighting was relatively close to Cannock Chase, and I don't think that's a coincidence because, as we mentioned before, Cannock Chase is a window area where all sorts of weird things have been seen. Strange serpent-like creatures in parlours, Bigfoot-like animal, wolfmen, black-eyed children, ghosts. It's like a whole paranormal party going on there. So, yes, because it's by a window area, I think that's very significant to this particular case.
You'll see a lot of trees in this woodland that are marked with certain types of colour paint, like the blue. So they're earmarked for felling or cultivation. And obviously a lot of this woodland right now, it's been a few months since I've been back here. A lot of it has been cut away. It's a lot more open than before. So that said, there are some trees that are literally pushed out of the ground with all the roots and all the compact earth around those roots. There are trees that are literally snapped in half or a third of the way up. I mean, literally snapped like a match. Hopefully more down this way. If they've not cut them up, I'm hoping that some of the splintered trees, have been literally destroyed by something other than man. Well, I explained that when a tree's pushed over and uprooted, all the earth compact within the roots. But obviously it's been cut since and sectioned as we've just walked through here. Well, there's another one here where you can see it's been clearly ripped or torn. But on the other one, not only do they physically, literally push us to splinter the whole base, there's a technique as well that Saabe people use as well, where they literally will twist to the right, twist, snap, over. So I'll just show you the festive match. This, as you can tell from the split, it's been twisted, then pushed and snapped. And then you can see from the back to the day. The right hand twist just as it spirals up that way.
So what they do is turn these trees that have been twisted off into dens, like
They some sort of function.
yeah.
Why they go a third or halfway up, I don't know. I know with some of the spruce or fir trees that they snap, they just, like I say, they shove them into the top of another tree. But some of these more thicker, hardened ones, I don't know. I mean, obviously we've got the example back over there where they were staggered and they were made into a sort of structure of some sort. But these were individual ones, so I don't know whether it was like they didn't like the look of it afterwards, or it didn't feel right for them
Yeah.
and just left it.
Uh-huh.
I really don't know. Yeah, I just want to know, even though the tree is bent over, it was being wedged in tight.
It has been wedged in.
So obviously considerable strength. Oh, and it actually, here we have a classic case of a tree snap. It's definitely being snapped about halfway or so of the way up. The only thing I've ever come across is basically they then take the top half, shove it into another tree upside down. It's what I call an upside down tree den. So you snap one off, go to the next full grown tree and shove it in at the top.
Wow.
Where I live, there's a village, Worsley, in ancient times that was, I think from ancient Celtic, something like Wolfland or Wolfhead. And again, there are wolves up there, but certainly I think they are, pick a certain spot that has certainly a long history. Round here, there is a pack, and I think, I know some people think they are migratory and they follow the deer, but there are at least 4 different herds of deer in these woods in surrounding area, and I think this is their pack area. I don't think they're migratory, but I think they do, as a pack as a whole, do split into 4 subgroups. And Reading is about 7 miles that way, so we are normally in the area of what I call the North Group, which is between 20, 24, maybe more, adults and young. There's certainly some to the south. There's a river that runs south of Reading. It's not the Thames, it's another one. Maybe a dozen down there. There's certainly some to the west of Reading. And yet I've been doing this 10 years and I've still yet to find where the East Group is, but I've got a pretty good idea. But again, there's so much to cover, there's so much territory to look at. I've just never got around to it, and I've been doing this 10 years.
The experience of seeing the 2 giant wolf-like creatures, I say wolf-like, but I suppose wolves in a sense. But the overall impact was the sheer size and the look of power and musculature and the sort of slinky sort of movement, different to a horse or any other kind of animal. But the sheer sense of power was so outstanding. And I've said before that I think one of those creatures, if he wanted to, would have no problem in flipping a car over, you know. But the sheer size and the look of power was what really impacted me.
The first time I saw one, the thing that stood out the most was the head. Just the size of it. And obviously the size of the creature itself. That one was about 8 foot. That was Christmas Day 2016. There are some those 10 to 12 foot range. There was a chap episode of Dogman Encounters, October 2017. Encountered one late at night. That was 10 foot. But there is one, I haven't seen him for many years now. Maybe he's deceased, but I used to call him Big Boss. I mean, he was just humongous. I've been up to Winsford. There's some big ones up there on the west side in the farmland. There's plenty of cows and sheep down there, plenty of woodland, and again, big. Not a lot of people report sort of 6-8 foot range, but some of those up there are 8 foot plus. Sometimes you see them more when you capture them on video or in a picture, but you do see them physically. I don't know about gift of sight, but maybe they just like me and they're quite safe knowing that they can walk around in the sunlight of a late evening during the summer or early morning hours. No, they're not going to be spotted. I mean, I have talked to people that have seen them up here. I mean, a postman. They do manifest physically. I mean, everyone can see them. I mean, one of my ex-neighbours knew about them. So if we were talking about the sensing or the gift of sight, in terms of sensing that they're nearby, definitely. You know, stop and look, even though you may not see anything physically, but they're there. I mean, they do cloak. Yeah, absolutely. Based on experience, I would say they are physical in our realm. I know there's a school of thought that they can probably come from another dimension, but I certainly believe they can use portals to travel now. In the first 3-4 years, I didn't until you know, seeing is believing, which I'm definitely a big believer of. But whether they come from another realm because maybe things are more habitable for them here, I don't know. But the thing is that they've been in human recorded history since we could learn to paint on cave walls. So I think they're definitely of this realm, this reality, and they do coexist side by side. I mean, Cicero wrote about them. They're certainly written by other chroniclers. Marco Polo mentioned an island specifically off the east coast of China. So there was close contact between us and them at some point. I mean, St. Christopher, before he was beatified, was a Cynoscephaly or werewolf, man-wolf. So at some point, maybe the 11th, 12th century, there was a separation between us, and they just withdrew more into the woodland. What that event was, I don't know, but I do certainly believe they physically exist in this realm, in this reality, in our time. I'm not disputing whether they may come from another place or another reality that mirrors our own, or can make it through the veil. Could well be, but certainly from my own experiences, they do use portals to get around. I mean, they are immensely fast and physically strong. They could be equally cruel as well as cute. They have an absolute vile hatred for cats and dogs, sometimes with people. But I like to highlight the more positive aspects of the interactions between people. So yeah, they definitely coexist. I've always left them something as a thank you or parting gift.
Yeah.
Sausage rolls and what have you. There's only one time where I felt like literally if I proceeded any further, I was dead. And actually that was along the footpath just behind us, cutting across the edge of the field. And I say this thing was so hungry, I just felt if I carried on, even in a way, I just felt like it was warning me, turn around now. I'm absolutely petrified. But I thought if I'd gone a bit further, I would have been lunch. Yeah, I know.
What surprises me about these modern day sightings is, like I mentioned before, that they're not the same as the medieval werewolf. It's almost like the phenomenon is adapting with what we think a werewolf should look like. Because werewolves in film these days are almost all bipedal humanoid creatures with wolf heads, unlike the medieval werewolves, which were literally just look like wolves. There was a 14 investigator called John Keel. He's best known for investigating the Mothman, Point Pleasant. And he came up with this term, window area. And a window area is where a lot of Fortean phenomena happen in the same place. So you might get UFO sightings, monster sightings, ghost sightings, poltergeist outbreaks, things like that, all happening at a certain place. And oftentimes, it's for a limited time only, a few months or a few years. And examples would be Point Pleasant in West Virginia, Warminster in Britain, Waverley Abbey will be mentioned with the dragons, and there's been other things seen there, weird lights, ghosts, strange disembodied voices. And Cannock Chase in the Midlands. Now Cannock Chase has been host to all sorts of things. There's supposed to have been a wolfman seen near the old German cemetery. There's supposed to have been Bigfoot-like creatures which couldn't possibly live in Britain without being detected. You couldn't have a population of 8-foot-tall primates living in Britain and nobody notices them. There's been UFO sightings, ghost sightings, black-eyed children, all in this area. I came up with a theory quite a long time ago called the global monster template. And you see the same types of monster manifesting in cultures all over the world, cultures that never met. First of all, you've got dragons that go back at least 75,000 years, and other monster reptiles. You've got hairy giants, whether you call them trolls, yetis, Bigfoot, Almasty, whatever. You have monstrous dogs, werewolves, demonic black dogs, monstrous phantom cats, big cats, and monstrous birds like the rock and thunderbird and the owlman of Morn Smith and so on and so forth, the Garuda and the Tengu of Japan. And I remember I was making a documentary in the year 2000 in Thailand, and it was about sightings of these giant serpents called Nagas. And we were looking at these statues in the jungle. They had statues of the great serpent, the Naga. They had the Garuda, which is half man and half bird, and the Singa, which is like a mythical lion. And I thought, well, this could be Cornwall, because in Cornwall they've got the owl man, they've got the sea serpent Morgar, and they've got the mystery big cats. And then it clicked in my head. You get the same sort of monsters in every culture. Why is that? And the theory I came up with, and I call it the global monster template, is that a couple of million years ago on the plains of East Africa, our Australopithecine ancestors would have come down out of the trees to exploit new food sources like kawia. But out on the savannah, they were vulnerable to attack, and they would have been taken down by crocodiles, which are the most dangerous predators still today, pythons, leopards and lions, African wild dogs, and they'd have been in competition with other primates, some bigger, some smaller, like Dinopithecus, which was a giant baboon, and other species of Australopithecine, like the robust Australopithecines. So you've got echoes of all the creatures from folklore: dragons, hairy giants, demonic dogs, demonic cats, monstrous birds, and also the little people, goblins, pixies and so forth. So you've got all of that in our ancestry. So I think what's happening is that it's to do with fossil memories, what we bring down in our genes from millions of years past, these ancient fears. And I think that they can arise as enormous gestalt, subconscious tulpas. A tulpa is a thought form. It's the idea that under intense concentration, someone can manifest a physical thing that can interact with its environment and be seen by other people. In In Tibetan folklore, which is where tulpas originate from, there's a strong tradition of that, and Buddhist monks are supposed to be able to make tulpas through intense concentration and ritual. Dame Alexandra David Neal, who was a French opera singer who travelled to Tibet and became a Tibetan Lama, she said that she created the tulpa of a monk over a period of 18 months with the power of the mind, and other people saw this and thought it was a real monk. I've experimented with thought forms when I was a student in Leeds, and I managed to create the tulpa of an enormous spider in a cellar in Leeds that other people saw as well as me. So, if one person under intense concentration and ritual magic can create a tulpa, what can the subconscious of mankind do? It could create these monsters from our distant past. Dragons, werewolves, hairy giants, fairies, demonic cats, demonic dogs, giant birds. That is one theory about where these things are coming from. And the other one is that these things are interdimensional. They come from another dimension. They appear, terrorize an area, and then vanish again. Theoretical physicists have postulated as much as 18 different dimensions. And under the right conditions, maybe creatures could slip through from one dimension to another. And if you look at ancient legend, a lot of British dragon legends, for example, the dragon appears, terrorizes an area, then vanishes again. There's no hero come to fight it. The second theory is that these monsters are coming from another dimension. So they sort of move into our dimension from another dimension. They're here for a while, they're physically real, they can interact with things, and then they go back to the other dimension. Theoretical physicists have postulated as many as 80 other dimensions, and maybe that is where some of these monsters are coming from. And if you look at medieval legend, for example, it's very similar. In a lot of British dragon legends, the dragon just appears from nowhere, terrorizes an area, it might kill livestock and eat people, but then it just vanishes again. There's no hero that comes to fight it, there's no hoard of gold, there's no damsel in distress. It just appears, scares the pants off people, and vanishes again. And you get that in fairy lore as well. So maybe some of these things wander through from other dimensions, and that's why they're not here all the time. That's why we can't find them, because if they were here all the time, we'd see them. Well, my job as a cryptozoologist is to travel the world in search of mysterious animals. Animals that are flesh and blood in the same way that you and I are flesh and blood. They're just unknown to science, or thought to be extinct but they might still be around, or known species that have got very, very big. And these things include stuff like the Tasmanian wolf, the Caspian tiger, the yeti, the orang pendek, the almasti, giant anaconda, things like that. But most of the stuff in Britain, I think, is supernatural in origins, paranormal. As we've been speaking of earlier with the global monster template, I think those things are paranormal. They come from another dimension, or they're created by our own subconscious. Not like most of the things I look for, which are real animals, if you will. Some of the exceptions to this, I think, are some of the lake monster bicana, which may involve gigantic eels, places like Loch Ness, Loch Muir, some of the Irish lakes. I think what we're looking at there are huge eels, and we know that eels live in fresh water. When they get ready to breed, because they are essentially genderless for most of their life, they have no genitals. We don't know what triggers them to grow genitals, but at a certain point they do, and they head out to the Sargasso Sea, they mate, spawn, die, and the babies that are called leptocephalus, they come back into the fresh water, and the cycle goes around again. But occasionally you get one that doesn't do that, and the theory is, they're called eunuch eels, and the theory is that these eels stay in fresh water, getting older and older and bigger. There was a sighting of an eel at Loch Ness in 2004, if memory serves, that was supposed to be 25 feet long. So that would explain the Loch Ness monster much better than a prehistoric plesiosaur or other marine reptile. Folklore and legend generally have a kernel of truth at the bottom of it all. Now, when I'm looking for cryptids, that is, genuine flesh and blood animals, I have to take two things into account. Are the creatures in question biologically probable, and are they in an area that can environmentally support a population of them? You can't just have one creature running around on its own. So with Monday werewolf sightings, the answer would be no. There's no precedent for a 7-foot tall bipedal wolfman. There's no precedent in evolution for members of the dog family walking erect and having human-like hands. None whatsoever. Giant primates couldn't exist in Britain. They'd have been found centuries ago. 65 million people live in Britain. It's the most deforested country in the whole of Europe. Now, it's a different matter in the forests of the Himalayas and Tibet and central China, where the Yeti might exist as a real flesh and blood animal. It couldn't exist over here. You can't have a species of whale-sized flying lizards flying around the skies of Britain, because they'd be gobbling people up and attacking planes and turning up on radar. So these more folkloric creatures have to be paranormal in nature. And if you look back into folklore, you can see a precedent for that. The flesh and blood ones are something entirely different. So we're talking about two different mysteries. And painting with a very broad brush, monsters fall into two categories. You get your flesh and blood real animals, like the Tasmanian wolf, the orang pendek, the yeti, the giant anaconda. They're animals unknown to science, or ones that are thought to be extinct but they're still around, or known species that have grown very, very big, like giant crocodiles and so forth. And then the second type are the paranormal ones. That's things like dragons, modern-day fairy sightings, werewolves, mothman, owlman, the ones that don't make biological sense and exist in places that can't support them. And oftentimes they bring with them extreme fear, extreme terror. There are two well-renowned Australian Fortean researchers called Tony Healy and Paul Cropper, good friends of mine. They have dubbed this intense fear the nameless dread, and that comes from an old H.P. Lovecraft story. These paranormal entities seem to bring this intense terror with them that the flesh and blood ones don't, and this terror can last for years and years and years. There was a friend of mine who shall remain nameless because he's now a very well-respected scientist. He encountered the Owlman as a teenager, and it still terrifies him now, and he's just turned 50. And he's still frightened of it all these years later. Mystery animals can be seen by anybody at any time, in any place. They seem to just appear and then vanish again. There are certain periods where a monster will terrorize an area and be seen multiple times and then vanish again like a ghost, never to be seen again. But there aren't any real repeatable patterns. You get these window areas where stuff might happen for a few months or a few years, and then the window area seems to close down and another one will open. There seems to be little rhyme or reason to it, although some of it may be related to ritual magic. There's certain evidence that ritual magic can manifest these things. You don't have to travel to exotic locations to find a monster. You can find them right here in Britain on your doorstep, although I do travel the world in search of monsters. But the things in Britain have a weird cast to them. There's a hell of a lot of difference in hunting a dragon or a wolfman than in hunting a yeti or a giant anaconda, because things in Britain are for the most part paranormal. I don't think they'll ever be caught or caged or identified because their nature doesn't allow that. Some people have monster sightings that they will take to their grave without telling another soul. I've met people that only ever spoken to me and never want their names mentioned. But I would say this to you, if you've seen a monster, don't fear ridicule. Be brave enough to come forward and tell a researcher, because the more we know, the more information we have, it's another piece to the jigsaw. We might begin to get some answers as to what's going on. We can't just block our ears, close our eyes and go, no, we can't hear you. These things are happening. They're part of our world. Just because we don't understand them now doesn't mean we won't understand them in the future. Think about it. At one time, lightning, meteorites, gorillas, giant squid. We didn't know about any of them. They were all thought to be mythical. The idea of stones falling from the sky was absurd. But now we know it happens. So monster sightings. Yes, they're bizarre, they're surreal, they're absurd, they're frightening. But they happen. So if you see a monster, get in touch with a researcher. My name's Richard Freeman. I am a professional cryptozoologist and a former zookeeper, and I'm the zoological director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology. You can find us at www.csz.org.uk, and my email address is doctor3uk@yahoo.com. So if anybody out there has seen a monster, let me know, because I'll be interested, because it's my job to hunt monsters.
As we come to the end of this UK Cryptids documentary, you may be wondering how one person can have so many encounters. But like Richard Freeman suggests, some of these sightings may have a paranormal element to them, something that not everyone perceives in the same way. I have a friend who sees auras, which just goes to show how differently people can see the world. So with Ian, the question may simply be, is he noticing something others don't see themselves? And then there's Steve, who only had one sighting, but like Ian, this creature followed him home. Whatever you believe, the mystery still remains. If you've had a cryptid sighting yourself here in the UK, please email me, as I'd love to hear your stories. Link in the description.